Hey everybody and welcome back to Dawn Nerds. I'm your host Charlie and you guys are joining me on the Saint Trophy and Achievement for Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. So this starts with day 1 on September 19th and Survivor 1 and 2. We're going to split this up into each survivor. First we're going to be taking a screenshot of the actual vent that leads to the security room. The reason being is that we need this for later for some gun shop survivors on day 3. Make sure you go into your pictures and actually lock that one so you don't lose it when you take others during the actual campaign itself. Other than that, obviously, you'll notice Jeff straight away as soon as you go to like the actual rooftop area itself. He'll be literally right in front of you, either running towards you or around that general area. Speak to him, run round the corner, and you'll find his wife, Natalie. They'll hug it out. You can take a nice picture, which gives you loads of PP, which is great, obviously, if you're starting early. And you level up so much faster in this game. So any PP you can get, when you do get it, there's a lot of it. So save these two. Obviously, once you've saved these two, take them back to the security room and then you guys can move on. So after saving Jeff and Natalie, you're going to want to progress the storyline a little bit more to the point where you have to help Brad get to the entrance plaza. When you do get to entrance plaza, after the cutscene occurs, you need to go upstairs to In the Closet. And behind the actual In the Closet shop, you will find Bill. He's one of the few survivors that many people don't actually know about because you don't actually get a call for him at all. He's literally just there. He's in the cupboard and you need to obviously help him out. After this, make your way back through Alfresco Plaza, through the Leisure Park, and to Paradise Plaza. Once you make your way back to Paradise Plaza, head upstairs to Colombian Roastmasters, and you'll see Kent doing his little photography things that he does, the annoying little git. He ends up turning into a psychopath a little bit later on in the storyline, but for now you do have to progress his quest line, which involves taking a few pictures of him whilst he's doing his poses and whilst he's taking photos. The reason for this is that if you don't progress this storyline, you will not be able to rescue Tad a little bit later on in the game, and he is the 48th survivor or 47th survivor that you are going to need. After this, a little bit of waiting around. At 4 PM, you're going to go save Aaron, Burt and Leah in Alfresco Plaza. Now, these are 3 different quest lines. You've got Barricade Pair A, you've got Barricade Pair B, and the last one will be A Mother's Lament, which effectively means that you have to go in there, rescue 2 of them, and then rescue the 3rd one. It says you'll get the call from Otis about a woman in a jewelry shop. Head into Alfresco Plaza. Make sure you're not in there to obviously receive the calls when you actually do get them in the first place. Be very careful. There are a lot of zombies in this very tiny area of the map. I rescued Aaron and Burt first. You will need to, when you go in to save Burt, you will need to punch him a few times because he tries to attack you. Punch him a few times. He's like, oh my God, okay, chill out, dude. Like, it's all good. He'll then join you, and weirdly enough, after that, he'll say to Aaron, okay, yes, let's go. Okay, once they've both joined you, they'll be all happy and jumping around and do whatever they need to do. There is a magazine there as well. It's one of the newer ones. You don't need it. It just gives Frank more endurance thanks to his elated experience that he feels when trying on new clothes. Pretty pointless. Haven't seen any benefit to it. I carried it. Didn't see any difference, so after a while I did end up dropping it. I would personally set a marker inside the store, as you guys can see now. Set a marker inside the store, run outside and go across to the jewelry shop, which is the Riverfield Jewelry. When you do go into there, you will see Leah behind the counter. She does her whole screaming thing and she's like crying and obviously throws herself at you before Frank pushes her off. You go for a quick brief conversation and then, depending on if you're skipping the talking or not, she will inevitably join you. She will need carrying because she's limping and she has an injury to her foot, but you can take her, Burt and Aaron a little bit further on. I would suggest waiting in the food court until 6 PM. 6 PM is when the convicts spawn in, and you'll find Sophie in the leisure park as well. Obviously, be very careful. The convicts repeatedly spawn in this version of the game. I don't know why. Every single day they seem to respawn. I know they did in the original. They spawned on 2 different days. But for some reason in this one, if you don't kill them before the cutscene that occurs at 7 PM, what will happen is whatever state they were at, they will repeatedly spawn in at that state. So if you've killed the gunner and then the cutscenes occurred, you'll have the convicts spawn again with just 2 of them and the gunner won't be there. It's a weird thing. I'm hoping Capcom will fix it at some point, but just be aware of that as you're playing through. Take those guys back to the safe house and then go wait in North Plaza. I waited in North Plaza until about 10. At 10 o'clock, you'll get the call for you and Shinju which are the two Japanese people in the bookstore. You will need to go behind the counter and pick up the Japanese book. Listening to Jazz Patrick, who does the voice for Frank in this, try to put on a Japanese accent and read the Japanese. I highly recommend checking it out. It's very, very funny. And it's actually quite interesting hearing Frank try to talk in that Japanese one, because obviously now we have the fully voiced like dialogue for survivors and everything. So hearing them talk and hearing Frank talk, very, very amusing. After this, though, once they've both joined you, they'll have a quick conversation with Frank. And then they say, okay, well, yeah, okay, we will join you. They do a little pose. You can try and get some PP from it. I missed it, but you can get quite a lot of PP from it, similar to the Jeff and Natalie on the rooftop. You don't need to keep the book with you afterwards. You can move on from that. After moving on from that, you can head over to where the Space Rider ride is, and you will find, obviously, Adam the Clown, our favourite psychopath from all of the Dead Rising games, and he will need killing before you can progress any further, because he has a survivor called Greg, who's probably one of the most important survivors in the entire game, and he shows you a shortcut to Wonderland Plaza, or from Wonderland Plaza to Paradise Plaza. You can take him, you and Shinju all back together, and it's very beneficial because obviously you'll be using this shortcut quite a lot, either where you're waiting around or if you're kind of transporting survivors to and from different areas within the map. The mini chainsaws aren't as good in this game. Capcom have massively nerfed them in terms of their abilities. They still kill the thinner zombies in one hit. However, the rather larger zombies require 2 hits. That's what I've found so far. They are almost as good, but they have definitely been nerfed to the point where zombies require more hits. After taking these two back at around 11 PM, still on day 1, you're going to get a call for a Shadow of the North Plaza. This requires you to go and rescue David, who's in the North Plaza. He will need help. He's hidden in a store. As you walk into the store, he'll back off and he'll be terrified of you. It's not something that you guys have done. It's just that that's the way the character plays out. He thinks that you guys are zombies when you first entered the shop. You'll see him scurrying away. He's like, oh my God, no, leave me alone, leave me alone. Okay, skip through obviously the content of him talking. Okay, he'll join you. He will need to be offered a shoulder, though, to obviously get himself back to the safe room. I would recommend trying to kind of keep him close to you if you don't want to offer a shoulder and you just want to kind of clear a path. Although taking the offer of the shoulder is a lot more beneficial and a lot quicker, because the zombies seem to kind of part like the Red Sea when you go near them. Other than the zombie grab, which is another thing that can happen in this game quite often. The zombies can grab you mid-animation and you'll find yourself kind of stuck and go, oh, okay, I need to figure this out. You can very quickly, though, press circle or B. Obviously, I've edited my controls to be more similar to Dead Rising 1. However, whatever button it is to offer a shoulder, go with that. After returning David back to the safe house, you will have a bit of time at around 1 AM on day 2, September 20th. During this time, you can use it how you wish. You can obviously fast forward time in the new one. I chose this time to use and go and get the maintenance key tunnel, which is in the bottom section of the maintenance tunnels. To get there, obviously enter the maintenance tunnels the way you normally would. As you enter, turn right, take your first left, and then right again. And this will be the small room, and the key is actually on the back at the first step of the ladder. This is also similar to the same area where you will find Zombie Brad, for those of you that obviously are aware of him turning. There's some food down here as well if you do need it. But after this, you will want to move on. This is around 7 AM. You're going to have, like I said, you are going to have a bit of time here to kind of kill time, do whatever you want to do. You can go take photos, or if you want to, you can literally just fast forward time. This is where you're going to get Lovers A and Lovers B. During this quest, you're going to have to rescue Ross and Tonya. Whatever you do, you will need a gun, but whatever you do not give that gun to Ross. If you give the gun to Ross, he blows his brains out. Okay, you want to make sure that when you go and talk to them, if you are skipping through, okay, do not have the gun in your hand when you are talking to him, because the last thing you want to do, Ross will kill himself, as I mentioned, and that means you will be one survivor down, and Tonya kind of just ends up crying and being a bit of a mess. Understandably, she's just lost her lover. So they talk about getting the gun. Be very, very careful, obviously, when you have it open. You can see there it says give. Do not give it. Talk to Tonya instead. And then when you do talk to Ross, okay, all of a sudden they'll go, boom, oh, he's fine. Look at that. He stood up. Not a problem at all. You will have to carry Ross, carry them back to the safe house. I wouldn't recommend picking up anybody else in that time. Just grab those two and that's it. Make sure around 9 a.m. you are not in Paradise Plaza. I use the shortcut here. You guys can see me standing there. At around 9 a.m, Heather and Pamela spawn in Paradise Plaza just outside of the toy shop. You will need a decent enough weapon to obviously clear out the horde that are gathered around Pamela. It's pretty tricky. Easier if you've got a queen. The amount of zombies there differs. In my game, I didn't actually have that many. I have seen other people that have had a lot more. The mini chainsaws, again, are very good. These are good up until you get Cliff's machete a little bit later on, at which point that thing is overpowered and just the best weapon that I've seen in the game thus far if you are on a fresh run without having the Mega Blaster or the laser sword. Rescue Pamela, clear out them, go inside, talk to Heather. Both of them will join you, and then you can take those two back to the safe house. A little bit later on in the day, you guys are going to get to the point where it's around about 9:30, 10 o'clock. You can rescue Gordon the Coward. He is in the hardware store, McHandy's Hardware, inside Alfresca Plaza. He won't join you unless you hit him. You've got to have something to hit him with, which also helps. I stood there, I was trying to kick him. Obviously, I didn't have the stomp at the time. I tried using a cardboard box. That did nothing. He stood there and kind of ignored me. In the end, I threw a frying pan at his head, which then did get him to react to me. So once he does react to you, you'll find him crawling along and he's like, no, I can't do this, I can't do this. Get his attention, okay? He'll say, stay away from me, talk to him a little bit more, and in the end, he will join you. You can pick up your stuff again. Now, at this point on day 2, it's very, very tricky and it's very time consuming. You are going to have a lot of quests and a lot of survivors in a very short amount of time. After this, after rescuing Gordon, the Coward, I then went to kill Cliff. Killed Cliff in Chris Slips using the lawnmower, because in this it just blitzes him and he takes so much damage from it. You can just walk in there, pick it, walk it towards him, and he pretty much dies instantly. I then went to save Josh, Barbara and Rich, at which point the census taker trophy popped because I'd been taking pictures of people as I'd been playing through. Once you've gathered up these survivors, you need to head back towards Paradise Plaza. You can cut through the leisure park. It's probably the easiest way because you're going to have to grab Ronald, who is, if some of you remember, he's in Jill's Sandwiches. He is the survivor that requires you to get food for him. He calls at around 11 a.m. You need to make sure that you have food on you to be able to actually get him to join you. He's one of those tricky ones that will not join unless you give him food. If you don't have food on you at the time, you can head up to Colombian Roastmasters. All of the food is still in there. But as for the food that's usually in Jill's Sandwiches, there is nothing in there. So don't expect to go in there and find anything just to give to him straight away. You can also check the trash cans outside. Sometimes they will drop food. But the main thing is just to make sure that you've given him food. He joins you. He has a little PP bonus as well, where you can take a photo of him after he's really happy once you give him some food. You will have a lot of survivors with you at this point, and you are going to obviously get an extra one here. Make sure that when you are traveling back to the warehouse to go up to the security room and the safe house, make sure that you do have like enough space and you take your time getting back, because sometimes it can be rather tricky and you don't want to end up in a situation where you've lost one of your survivors. Luckily, this game does have an autosave feature, so you could always just autosave at a specific point. Be careful with the autosave, because I've noticed that sometimes it doesn't always count survivors if you do reload up an autosave if something does go wrong. But just something to keep in mind as you're playing through. Once you've done this, you need to then go and see Kent. This is the second part of Kent's quest, where at which point you need to take an outtake photo. Hopefully by now you would have taken an outtake photo. If not, you can take one before going to speak to him. And it requires you to just take a picture of some zombies with a servbot head on. It's not tricky. Just go into the toy shop downstairs in Paradise Plaza. You can do this at any point. Put these servbot heads onto the zombies, take a quick picture. As long as it's over 500, then obviously when it comes to this part of Kent's quest, it will pass straight away. You show him that picture and you won't have an issue. It will progress onto the third section, where Kent then says, well, meet me here tomorrow at 12, and that will be the day 3 quest of Kent's missions. Again, make sure that you do this, obviously, otherwise you're going to miss out on getting Tad. After this, at around 1 p.m, you're going to be gathering up around about 6 survivors at this point. Potentially 7, because there's another one that you get when the cult decide to show up. Make sure that you go to above the law before it runs out. The longer you leave it, the less survivors you get, because Joe actually ends up killing them off screen. And I found that if you don't get to her as soon as possible, you will not end up with all of the 4 survivors that are there. Okay, so that's a really big point. I'll make sure that you get to Joe as quick as you can in the above the law quest, so that you can get all of the 4 survivors that she has in there with her. If you go there and you find that you've only got one of the survivors, okay, you will have to load up an older save, okay, because they will not spawn in no matter what you do, and the only person that will be there will be Kay. After killing Joe, obviously you're going to need to rescue or uncuff the 4 girls that are tied up down there. Again, using Cliff's machete. Most of the bosses in the game are not difficult when you're using Cliff's machete. They literally, it's the new mini chainsaws. And again, they respawn. They're not as accessible to get to in comparison to the mini chainsaws, but they are hands down the best weapon that I found to use outside of the cultist sword that you get a little bit later on. Before you take all 4 of those survivors back, you need to go and rescue Nick and Sally, who are hanging from the Willamette bunny that's just outside of Joe's little quest line. To get these guys down, you're going to have to use a former, it could be a book, anything. Effectively, you just need to knock them down. Okay, it's not too tricky. I just used orange juice. You do lose your orange juice though when you do it, but there is a nice PP bonus when they do land on the ground, which gives you obviously the benefit of being able to level up a little bit quicker again. Sally is on one side and Nick is on the other. Once you do have all of those survivors, like I said, you are going to have 6 at this point.
Can you walk?
Once you've got all 6, you need to then head to the Wonderland Plaza shortcut that takes you back to Paradise Plaza. Okay, be very careful, obviously, because now at this point, you don't have a lot of time, and you also are going to be carrying a lot of survivors, because you need to make sure that you're back to the safe room by 3 p.m. for another source. As you head back through to Paradise Plaza, and you take the shortcut, you're going to find that there'll be a random cutscene that will occur. As long as you've made it to this point after 1 p.m, because at 1 p.m, that's when the cultists arrive on day 2. You'll see Sean doing his kind of cult ritual thing that he does. Okay, and then he spots Frank. And you will immediately be in front of them. Your survivors will still be in the toilet, so they should be safe. Be very careful. You can set a waypoint so that the survivors don't come to you, but obviously at this point in the game, there aren't that many zombies in this area because the cultists have just spawned in, so you should be okay, and your survivors should make it to you without an issue. Once you clear out all the cultists that are gathered around, you can rescue Jennifer from the box. She's actually inside the box, so make sure you get her out of it. Okay, and you can see in the background now that all of my survivors are kind of running towards me. Okay, once they're all gathered together and Jennifer has joined you, you can make your way back to the security room. And just be careful. I found that there's multiple different options. Look for the best way that you guys can find depending on the density of zombies. Sometimes there's a lot of zombies in one particular area, or maybe going upstairs past Colombian Roastmasters is a little bit easier. Or however, you might want to go around the left-hand side on the underneath and go past the kids' shops and come out at the other part of that area. Multiple options. Just look at where the zombie density is and kind of figure it out for yourselves. It's not that tricky, but just be very, very careful. At this point, your survivors that you've rescued should look like the following. Okay, you should have up to 51 on there. It should say that you have 31 safe, 17 dead or lost, and 4 located. Okay, so just to kind of give you guys an idea, if you're at this point in the storyline and your survivors list looks exactly like mine, you are on track, you're all good, you're doing well, you don't have nothing to worry about. Just keep following the guide and you shouldn't have any more issues throughout. Obviously, you are going to find that we fill up this entire thing. The ones that are dead are usually ones that have been killed during cutscenes, or ones that psychopaths or storyline characters, Carlito, Isabella, etc. So 5:05, you're going to head towards Entrance Plaza. Okay, this is for another 4 survivors that we're going to get during this. You are going to have to kill the sniper family, the Hall family. They are in there. I would suggest killing Thomas first. You can actually not rescue him, but you can actually leave him at this point. If you kill the other 2, the brother, and you kill the dad, Thomas gives up and he doesn't actually do anything. But I always found that Thomas was the easiest one to kill, so I killed Thomas first. Okay, and then you can go and kill Roger. Thomas is clumsy. He's all over the place in this game. He falls over a lot. He makes mistakes, and he's probably the easiest to kill. Once they're dead, you need to head downstairs, and you'll find Jolie inside Grandma's kids. Okay, she's down there. She'll have a little cry. She'll whinge and moan, and then as you go to leave the store, she'll say, "Wait, I'll come with you." Once she comes with you, you can then head upstairs. As you head upstairs, if you go into Estelle's Fine Cosmetics, you'll find that in that area, you'll meet up with Wayne. So Wayne is the character that's kind of cowering. He's behind the counters at the far back. He's not that hard to spot, but he won't come out until all of the Hall family are dead. I haven't tried it with Thomas yet to see if Thomas is a case of, if Thomas is still alive, will Wayne still join you? But to be safe, if you're going for Saint, I would suggest killing Thomas just to be sure. Okay, you'll find Wayne hiding there. He'll come out. Frank will say to him, "Oh, look, the snipers are gone now. They're not here. You don't have to worry about them anymore." Okay, and then after that brief point, a little conversation that you're going to have with him, Wayne will join you. You can then obviously grab Jolie's hand and head back round to Rachel, who is hiding in the For Her store, which is just on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you'll see Floyd in Ned's Knackery, or Nick Knackery, the antique store. We'll go to him afterwards. Okay, but for now, you need to have Jolie with you to be able to save Rachel. They have a little kind of like hug it out moment where they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I left you." Loads of PP if you manage to get the photo taken at the right time. You can see I leveled up from it. Once Rachel Decker has joined you, you can then head back outside, go across the little walkway and go and save Floyd, who is in the antique store. He has a very, very long conversation. But luckily, again, you can skip most of this conversation and get to the point where you can just get him to join you. And then after that point, you see here I accidentally charge him because where I've changed my controls, sometimes if I press L1 too quickly and then circle at the same time to talk, it ends up charging. So I football tackled him briefly. You will have to carry Floyd. It makes it a lot quicker to actually carry Floyd. He can walk. However, he runs out of breath very, very quickly, and it's just easier just to carry him. The other three will obviously keep up with you, and you can head those guys back to the safe area. A little bit later on at 12 a.m. on day 3 now, okay, we've got Survivor 32, which is Kindell. He joins you during the Isabella mission, where Isabella is attacked by the zombie as she gets pushed through the door. You obviously have to knock the zombie off of her. And as you leave the building, Kindell will be outside with his shotgun, and he's literally just there to escort you, really. That's the whole reason why he was put into it. He's there to obviously join you and escort you and Isabella, because obviously at this point you can't really do anything because Isabella's on your back. So Kindell is going to be kind of your way of getting through and stopping any like zombies from attacking you. He's pretty good at it. He's not too bad. He keeps up. You don't have to wait too much for him. He's not a bad character. He's a bit of a pain in the backside a little bit later on when you have to fulfill his mutiny because he tries to do it, but we'll get to that afterwards. After this, about 1:05 on day 3, we're going to have another 5 survivors here. So after you get the call for the cult in the cinema, you are going to have to go in there, kill Sean, who is obviously the cult leader. And at this point, no more cultists will show up in the game. So obviously, if you are trying to get the trophy for killing 100 cultists, make sure that you've done that before this point, because you will not have any more after this. Save Nathan. They're all tied up, so they're not too hard to get to. Make sure that you do kill the cultists before you try to rescue them, because the cultists will come into the room. Okay, so you've got Nathan, Michelle, Ray, and then Beth. Once you've saved all 4 of them, make sure you check out the cupboard, because inside the cupboard you'll find Cheryl. And Cheryl is one who will give you a request later on. Some of you, if you've played the original, you might remember her as the woman who requested the erotica pictures when you have to do the kind of photo shoot with her. Obviously, the photo shoot still exists. The erotica pictures don't. She still does exactly the same poses and everything like that. So you just don't get the bonus for it being an erotica. It makes no difference, really. Okay? After you've got all 4 of those, or 5 of those, shall we say, you can head out back to the security room. Okay, there is the brainwashing tips book, which is very beneficial. I highly recommend it's the purple one you can see on screen now at the top. The purple one, it actually makes the survivors less scared, and they will end up following you a lot better than kind of stopping and starting like they usually do if you don't have them with you. Shortly after this, you're going to want to head over to North Plaza around about 4 a.m. These are another 3 survivors that do not get a call. You will not get a call for these survivors at all. Okay, we've got Brett, Jonathan, and Alyssa. Now, the reason we took the picture of the vent at the very beginning is for these 3 survivors. Okay, they're in the gun shop where obviously you fight Cletus. You will not be able to recruit them unless you have the picture of the vent, which is why it's literally one of the first things that you do. It doesn't save across playthroughs either, so if you do have a picture of the vent from one playthrough that you've already taken, it will not work unless you've taken a newer one and saved it in that specific playthrough. So make sure that you've done that. Okay, when you enter the shop, okay, the further you go into the shop, they won't do anything. You'll notice there, obviously, they're not doing anything even though I'm in the shop. You have to literally almost go fully into the shop, at which point you'll see them start shooting at you. Okay, make sure you get out of the shop as quickly as you can, okay, because obviously you don't want to get stun locked and shot to death. It's the last thing you want to do. Okay, at which point you'll hear one of them, Jonathan, shouts out, "Hey there, buddy, you still breathing?" Okay, that means you can then re-enter the shop because he's jumped over the counter and he's rejoined. Okay, from this point there'll be a brief conversation. It's a little bit of a back and forth. He'll say to you, "Well, we've already been up to there. We couldn't get into the security room. It was all like barricaded off, and the door was fused shut, and there was no way for us to get in there." Okay, so they've obviously showed that they've tried to get in there and it didn't work. And then Frank tells them about the security vent and that you can actually access the security room via this vent, which is why you guys need to obviously show them the picture that you've taken. Like I said, if you've saved it previously, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this guide, if you have that picture saved, they will join you immediately, and you shouldn't have an issue with them in terms of progressing through the rest of these survivors. There's a load of supplies here as well. Obviously, it's recommended to stock up if you need to. There's wine, there's food, there's guns. Use this as a quick stop break, and then when you're ready, start heading towards Wonderland Plaza. There's a reason that we're heading towards Wonderland Plaza is because we're going to take on the long-haired punk quest with Paul, where you have to obviously kill Paul, or fight Paul as such. When you fight Paul, obviously there's that brief moment where he's kind of like on fire and he's kind of panicking and whatnot. Bringing along the other 3 survivors, obviously they are fully armed, and when Paul is trying to leave the shop, usually what will happen is they end up shooting him. So it actually benefits you, and then Sean, Paul doesn't really know where to go, and he's panicking and he's all over the place, and it makes the fight a little bit easier because you've got 3 survivors blocking the doorway. So once the cutscene occurs and obviously Paul is on fire, you can take a picture of him. It doesn't really matter when. Just be careful because after every cutscene, if you have set a waypoint, the survivors will start running towards you again. Use the fire extinguisher. It's a lot easier in this one than it was in the original. Once Paul's all done, you can take a picture of him. You can take a picture during. It really doesn't make a difference. Talk to him. He'll say, "Oh, okay, like I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do it. I'm just fed up with everyone taking the mickey out of him." And then inside the cupboard next to him, you'll find Mindy and Debbie as well. Now that you've gathered quite a bunch of survivors together, at this point we are going to head towards the food court. The reason why we're heading towards the food court is we're going to save Gil, who is the drunk that's literally behind the bar area. You'll see him kind of laying on the floor. He's surrounded by wine and booze. Okay, he will join you. You need to exhaust all dialogue because he's very hesitant to join you to begin with. Once you've kind of exhausted all the dialogue, head towards the exit where you're like to Leisure Park, as if you're going to like leave him there. And all of a sudden he will say, wait, no, actually I will come with you. Okay, so you can leave kind of that little area that he's in to begin with that you guys can see on screen now, walk down the steps, and then all of a sudden he'll say, yes, okay, I will join you. At this point in the game, okay, you should have you should have the same amount of survivors that I've got on screen. Okay, you'll be missing 5. Okay, they'll come at a later point. But really important point to note, at this point, you can get ending B by letting last resort completely run out. Okay, and then just click continue and you can grab the last couple of survivors and still get Saint. However, if you don't have overtime mode and infinity mode or infinite mode, you can carry on and still get the Saint trophy or achievement without having to worry about just letting the time run out. Okay, so that's a really important point to note. So 8 a.m. on day 3, September 21st, we've got survivors 45 and 46. We have Susan, who's on top of the football in Wonderland Plaza. You can use a queen or however you feel to obviously clear the zombies out from around her. As long as you can get up to her and get her down from there, that's the main thing. It doesn't really matter at any point after that. Okay, just get up to her, talk to her, you can hold her hand. Okay, and then you want to head over to the Estelle's Fine Cosmetics shop that's just over to the other side and rescue Leroy. Okay, he's the sick man quest. He's obviously not feeling very great. Okay, you can talk to him. Once you've spoken to him, both of these two, you kind of want to head as quickly as you can towards the Wonderland, like Paradise Plaza shortcut. Okay, because we're going to be moving on to... Luckily, I got the skill acquired, Disembowel. We're going to be talking about Disembowel shortly afterwards. But yeah, head towards the Wonderland and Paradise Plaza shortcut. Once they're back, you need to get back there as quickly as possible because we need to get to Colombian Roastmasters by 12 p.m. on day 3. If you don't get there by this time, Tad will be dead upon arrival. Kent will have already turned him by using one of the maggot zombie things that he's got in his hand. He uses that to obviously turn Tad so that he can take his pictures. However, if you get there on time at 12 p.m, okay, you actually stop that event from occurring and you're able to obviously rescue Tad. You still have to fight Kent. You have this whole psychopath fight that you wouldn't have necessarily had. But this event doesn't occur if you don't get there on time. You end up with a completely different event where like Frank is chained up, Kent's taking photos, it's all a bit of a mismatch and everything's going all over the place. Okay, so make sure you are there on time. Okay, once you've obviously killed Kent, you can rescue Tad. And then I'd recommend going and waiting in the warehouse, or if you decide, you can obviously wait downstairs in the like Paradise Plaza, Wonderland Plaza shortcut. It's completely up to you, but the main thing is that you need to leave this area. Okay, because the last survivor will not spawn unless you have left this area. So head downstairs. Once you've waited it out, you'll get the call for a woman in despair. This is the last survivor that you guys are going to actually rescue throughout the entire game. Okay? She is at 1 p.m. You rescue Simone and you can take her back to the safe house with you. It's really important now at this point, you should have the call for a Kindell's Betrayal. You need to make sure that when you do return to the safe house, okay, that you talk to Kindell and avert that mutiny. Because if you do not, you will lose a bunch of survivors and your Saint run is completely screwed at that point. Okay, you will lose a lot of survivors as well. It's not like to the point where you can still manage to get Saint. You lose enough survivors that it warrants you not getting the trophy and achievement. Okay, so make sure that you do talk to him upon that point. So you can see now we've literally got one left, 78, which is Larry. He's the butcher downstairs. He's not a survivor. He's a psychopath, but we do meet him at that point. Okay, there are a few other requests that pop up during this time. Okay, so on day 3 still, at 5 p.m, we've got Paul's Present, where if you rescued Paul, he gives you the Molotov cocktails and you can take as many as you want off of him. And he gives you quite a few in this one, I've noticed. A lot better than the original game. Simone the Gunslinger is at 7 p.m. She asks you to take her a handgun. She's not going to do anything with it. It's just in case she changes. And obviously at 8 p.m, we have Cheryl's request, which is to go and take pictures of her in the safe house when she's doing all of her poses. As you come to the end, okay, once the military like cutscenes occur and you see Jesse and the military and everything like that, okay, you need to make your way back to Isabella. She's in North Plaza, she's in Carlito's hideout. Okay, you need to return to her and speak to her first to trigger that cutscene. You guys also noticed that I did a dodge roll into the disembowel thing. That is going to be your best friend when it comes to overtime mode and the last couple of bits of day 3. The military are insanely overpowered in this game, and you guys are going to have to be very, very careful because they can stun lock you, and there's quite a few of them all at once, and it can cause a few issues I've seen people having, especially in terms of like you can't move, you're stuck. So rolling gives you iframes, and then obviously the disembowel move kills them instantly. Okay, so once you've had the cutscene with Isabella, you can then return to the helipad, and then you'll see the cutscene that occurs where Ed's eaten and the helicopter crashes into the clock tower that's in the middle of the leisure park. And at this point, the game will end. Okay, you'll get your ending. It should be ending A if you've followed this guide. Okay, you'll get 3-day survivor and you'll unlock overtime mode. If you went with ending B, obviously you won't get overtime mode and you won't get infinite mode. So make sure if you're going for those things, you follow this. Okay, once you quit, you'll then get the overtime mode where you have to gather all the queens and do all of that for Isabella, go through the tunnels, fight the military, fight Brock on the tank, etc., etc. And once that is finished and the cutscenes have rolled, and yet he complained his belief was never full, once that cutscene has occurred, Infinity Mode will be unlocked and Saint will be unlocked alongside that as well. You can then save that and you'll be able to use the magazine for infinite durability and infinite ammo. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.